This is a report of an investigation into a recently discovered manuscript and artifacts about fumets. And since Her Majesty is here, it deals with dragons, and Her Majesty has indeed found a very fine dragon. Throughout the history of the world, may I say, that because this is a formal writing, there are footnotes, but you can't see them. So when a footnote comes, I will let you know this is a footnote. And this is my interpretation of what was studied. Throughout the history of the world, a number of species of dragons has existed. Most have disappeared, and the lore of dragon hunting has been forgotten. Once the sport of the highest of kings and emperors, we are left to contemplate the somewhat inexact drawings and embroideries that attempt to depict this mystical beast. This word is often corrupted by those with a speech impediment as mythical. The most illustrated and least seen in the flesh is the Draconis mediterranei. Virtually the only physical sign of the beast is its fumet. For those unfamiliar with dragons and their ilk, fumets is the name given to a byproduct of draconian food production. Some authorities claim the word to have been derived from an ancient king's exclamation that, quote, "They are few but well met." Two examples of fumets have serendipitously fallen into this researcher's hands and will be described later. Due to a recent discovery of an ancient manuscript, we are now able to ascertain more information about this species of dragon. About 20 years ago, archaeologists made an accidental discovery of a 12th century manuscript while reconstructing a garderobe in the royal apartments of a castle in northern England. Tucked into a stone recess next to the throne in the garderobe, or privy, was a portion of a parchment written in Latin. Found in the privy, scholars have therefore considered this to be part of the king's privileged information, a term which is still in use today. This sole remaining fragment of an obviously longer work has recently been translated into English. There was a paucity of material for documenting these fumets. Searching the library stacks one final time that anything may have been overlooked, this researcher became frustrated. She recalls muttering, "Oh, pooh," just before laying eyes on an obscure PhD thesis that contained the translation of this 12th century manuscript. The researcher speculates that there is truth in the university hypothesis that BS is similar to a fumet. MS is purportedly meant to be more of the same, and PhD piled higher and deeper. The translator noted that not all of the pages remained intact, but that bits and pieces from the sides of and the bottom were missing, making a complete translation impossible. Keep in mind that this was found in the garderobe. While most scholars believe that rats to have done the damage, some academicians argue that it appears that pieces were deliberately torn off, little by little. What remains of the original document are some of the customs and ceremonies surrounding the hunt of a dragon, and some details of how to read a fumet. According to the anonymous author, the king was expected to participate fully from the beginning of the hunt until the end. This differs from other hunts where the prey would be chased past the spot where the royal party waited. Quote, "It is the king's duty to be first to horse and last to dismount, leaving the saddle only when the dragon is sighted. Should the king fail to follow these precepts, he will have little chance of spotting his quarry. It was noted that in the margin, some scribe had scribbled, "Fors fortis," Latin for fat chance. And the remaining part of the unidentified scribe's nose was missing due to a torn or nibbled leaf. Fumets were virtually the only sign of a dragon. The manuscript spells out part of the ceremonial procedure, but when the fumets are located, they were not to be physically touched, but carefully lifted up by what means appears to have been on the part of the document not extant. The most senior huntsman was enjoined to present the spoor to His Majesty on a fresh leaf of cabbage. First showing. On a fresh leaf of cabbage. Cabbage was thought to be one of the dragon's staple foods, as it is widely known to be a gas producer, an item necessary to the dragon's flaming abilities. Some authorities have been heard to muse that all drawings of dragons, however, show flame issuing from the other end. Ceremonial words preceded the presentation of the kneeling huntsman. The king, still on his horse, followed a prescribed manner of inspecting the fumet, since its color and size indicated the sex and age of the dragon. Careful inspection by a fatigued king could reveal much about where the dragon had been, its physical state, as well as how long the fumets had been shat. The correctly declined Old English term for draconian fumet production, contrary to modern declensions. Using some of the information presented in the manuscript, this researcher was able to elicit certain facts from a close inspection of the two fumets in her possession. The larger fumet, red, spans approximately 25 centimeters and rises some 9 centimeters. The other, green, is some 16 centimeters in diameter and is flatter, being about 6 centimeters high. Their relatively small size reveals the youth of the dragons. The larger carmine, or red fumet, is that of a male. The color is due to a frequent diet of red-blooded warriors and an occasional blushing maiden. Dragons, especially young males, were not totally carnivorous, but often ate fruit, especially from the fruit of a certain palm tree. Since dragons are well known to be faithful mates and lifelong partners, this fumet reveals that the young dragon has not yet found a mate. Close inspection by this researcher's not so experienced eye shows that he recently had a date. The manuscript noted that females of this species produced green fumets due to their presumed diet of vegetation, vegetarian animals such as cows or sheep, and green untried fighters. Upon inspection of this fumet, one can notice an unchewed leaf of romaine, clearly indicating that this particular female is not actively searching for a mate and prefers males to leave her alone. Witness the lone lettuce that she leaves behind. More might be revealed by an expert, which this researcher regrettably is not. The manuscript refers to specifics which were apparently spelled out on earlier pages, and so discommodiously torn or eaten off. It does explain, however, just prior to where it breaks off again, why a king who fatigued himself by a lengthy hunt would have greater powers of observation. The translator had trouble with the Latin, he admits, but it appears that His Majesty would be more likely to see one of these beasts since he himself would be a dragon.